Alright, y'all, check this out. BCM Raider here, bringing you another Commander deck tech. Today, we have Atla Palani, Nest Tender. This is going to be similar to the other dragon deck that we showed you guys, but this has a much different spin on it. Because what Atla Palani does is she's going to be creating these 0-1 egg creatures with Defender. And whenever a egg creature dies or goes to the graveyard, we get to reveal cards until we hit very large creatures. Most of these creatures are going to be dragons because they synergize well with what we're doing. So we're going to be killing off these eggs and putting in very large dragons, kind of like before. But let's get right into it. I want to thank my friend for allowing me to do this deck tech for him. So hopefully he can get some good insight on ways to improve this deck. But until that point, here we go. First up is the land base. We have our Windswept Heath, our Wooded Foothills, our Fable Passage. I'm actually surprised that we don't have the third fetch land, which would be the Arid Mesa. So we're missing Arid Mesa. Okay, now we have Myriad Landscape, because we're gonna need a lot of lands. And there's a lot of ways to put lands on the battlefield in this deck. So now we have Cinderglade, Canopy Vista. These are all fetchable. Now we have Sacred Foundry, Stomping Ground, and just like for any creature-based deck, we don't want our creature spells getting countered. So, we're running Cavern of Souls. This is a very powerful land. Now we have the OG Tri-Land with Jungle Shrine. And now we have the fetchable new Jungle Shrine with Jetmir's Garden. Of course, we're playing Command Tower. Reflecting Pool, because we're going to need whatever color we need. Now we have Rock Valley. These lands I'm not too sold on, but it's fine. Game Trail. This is another land I'm not too crazy on, but they will tap for the colors you need. Fortified Village. Check lands. Check lands are very good, especially if you're running a bunch of the basic land types like forest, mountain, swamp, plains, island, whatever. So we have some Sun Petal Grove, Brush Land. Now we have our choice of red or white mana with Needle Verge Pathway, green or white mana with Boulder Loft Pathway, Temple of Triumph. I don't mind Skylands because we're going to need information on what's on top of our library. That way we know how to progress the game. So there's the red-white. Here's the green-red with Temple of Abandon. And the green-white with Temple of Plenty. Okay, now we have six mountain, 4 forest, sorry, five forest, my fault, and 3 plains. You might want to cut a forest for 1 plains. I don't know. I don't like odd numbers in my land base. It's very strange. But this isn't about me. So let's move right into the artifacts. Now we have Arcane Signet, our Soul Ring, a Boros Signet, a Talisman of Unity, Chromatic Lantern. Chromatic Lantern is going to be very good in multicolored decks because we're going to need whatever color we need. And if all your lands turn into tri-lands or tap for whatever color you need it to, then that's good. Now we have Lightning Greaves because we need to give Atla Palani haste. That way we can activate her and start getting those egg tokens that we can start killing off. Basically, the whole premise of this deck, besides just being a large creature deck, is we're going to utilize these egg tokens by either making a lot of them, but we're going to want to forcefully kill these tokens. That way we can get our very large creatures out for free. So there's Lightning Greaves. The booties, the size 13 pair of goofy boots with swift foot boots. Now we have a very specific artifact in this deck with Lotus Ring. Oops. Lotus Ring is going to be very good for us because we're just going to equip this to an egg token and we can get 3 mana out of that token just by sacrificing it, because we want to sacrifice those tokens so we can get much bigger creatures. And the fact Lotus Ring is indestructible itself, this is going to be very hard to remove unless you just exile an artifact. Okay, another very good way of ensuring these tokens are going to die is by Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp is going to be very powerful and very good by drawing you 2 cards, but it's used the best in any kind of like token strategy. Okay, now we have Masswood Nexus, because we are playing a couple cards that synergize with certain types. But also, Masswood Nexus is going to make every single creature an egg. And that's really cool, because it doesn't matter if it's a goblin, a dragon, a human, a merfolk, you know, stuff like that. It's going to be an egg. So, whenever any of those creatures die, we're going to, you know, get crazy value out of that. Okay, let's get into the enchantments. First up, because we're a large creature deck, we're playing Sneak Attack. So for 1 mana, put that big ass creature out, beat up your opponents with it, and look, it's sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. But what if you have Masswood Nexus? That's another egg that died. We're going to do this again. Seems pretty good. Okay, now we have Anointed Procession. This is going to allow us to create as many tokens as possible. So we can just start dumping out all these very large creatures. Within that is a self-contained one, so we can search for whatever creature we want by sacrificing it with Evolutionary Leap. It's kind of like Birthing Pod as well. But, okay. Now, because we're still on this dragon theme, we have Dragon Tempest. Dragon Tempest is gonna allow us to start throwing damage around. And because most of all of our creatures are gonna have flying, they're gonna have haste. Unless they have haste already. Now, to continue with the dragon theme, we have Crucible of Fire. This is just going to make the very large dragons even bigger. Now we have Elemental Bond. This is going to help us draw cards whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield. Now we're getting into the instants. The instants are pretty much like spot removal. There's some mass removal and some protection for us. First up is Flawless Maneuver. Heroic Intervention. Because there will be times where we don't want our board to die. Okay. Now we have a couple sorceries with Farseek, because this is going to be our main mana ramp. So we're going to go get a Plains card or a Mountain card. Now we have Nature's Lore. This will allow us to get a Forest card. Rampant Growth, which will give us more basics of whatever we need. Kanama's Reach. This will ensure you have your land drop, and it puts a basic on the battlefield. Pretty much the same thing with Cultivate. Okay. Now we have the big one with Finale of Devastation. You've already heard me talk about this card. It's the simple fact of, if we already have a large board, you're just going to kill your opponents very quickly, and you're going to go get a very large creature to help you kill them faster. I love this card. Next is Shamanic Revelation. This is going to draw us a lot of cards. And because most of our creatures are going to be power 4 or greater, we're going to gain 4 life for each one of them. Next, we have good old Harmonize, because sometimes you want to pay 4 and just draw 3 cards. Okay, now we have a lot of the mass removal, because we're going to think of this as a controlled burn. Basically, we're going to create a bunch of tokens, we're going to kill them all at the same time, and put as many creatures on the battlefield as we can. So, first up is Star of Extinction. 20 damage should be enough to kill everything. Fumigate, because it's a wrath as well, but this gives you the option of gaining life for each creature you control dies. Then we have a good old-fashioned Wrath of God. I don't know why it's gold bordered though. Anyway, next we have a very flavorful one, because this will give us dragon tokens, because we can destroy any number of creatures, but we can just choose our stuff and just be like, hey, I'm gonna kill off these 12 egg tokens, and I'm gonna get 4/4 dragons as well, on top of whatever creature we reveal from Atla Palani. But what's really, really fun about this deck is Every single trigger is a separate trigger. That's insane. So for every one egg token that dies, that's another very large threat entering the battlefield. This kind of gives me Indomitable Creativity vibes, which is a very popular deck in Constructed, which kind of follows the same premise of creating tokens to get larger creatures. Okay, well, enough about that. But next up is Blasphemous Act. Hour of Devastation. This is going to be very good because if your opponent's creatures have Indestructible, this is going to remove that indestructibility. And 5 damage is a lot. So, okay, now we have some spot removal with Swords of the Plowshares, Path to Exile, Beast Within, Sundering Growth. Sundering Growth is nothing more than a Naturalize with Populate. Naturalizes destroy target artifact or enchantment. But the fact that we're gonna make more tokens is pretty good. Okay, now we have Starstorm. If we have a lot of mana, we can just pick off whatever creatures we want to, including our own tokens. Magma Quake. Now we have Chaos Warp. That way we can exile something and hopefully get something better. Okay, now we have the only Planeswalker in the entire deck. And of course it's Sarkhan. I like Sarkhan. He's like the dragon guy. So he's going to make 4/4 dragons for us. And yeah, he's just fun. Okay, now we have our creatures. We only have 4 eggs, like actual egg types right now. But I think with newer printings and stuff, there might be a couple more. So we could look into possibly fitting a couple more egg type creatures in this. But for now, there's only 4. First up is Smoldering Egg. This is a fun little card because it transforms. It's going to transform into this cool guy. It's a little egg that becomes a dragon. That's going to throw 2 damage around anytime you cast an instant or sorcery. Next is Rock Egg. Not to be confused with Ruck Egg, which probably should be in this as well. But basically, when this dies, this is going to give us a Atla Palani trigger, but also this is going to give us a 3/3 flying bird token. Now we have Mysterious Egg. It's so mysterious. This card's really good because it's a 1-drop, but it's also colorless. So in the weird situation where you can have like a colorless reduction, this would basically cost 0, but I don't think we're running that kind of stuff. So, but this has some flavor text about whenever this creature mutates, you put a +1 counter on it. We're not doing that. The only reason this card is here is because it's a very cheap egg. Okay, now we have the iconic Dragon Egg. When this dies, you get a 2/2 red dragon token with fire breathing. Okay, let's get into the big creatures, or dragons. You're probably going to see a lot of very similar dragons. in this deck than with the previous deck. But first up is Terror of the Peaks. This is just going to throw a bunch of damage around. Old Gnawbone, because this dragon is absolutely obscene. Make those treasures, kids. To go along with that is Ancient Copper Dragon, making even more. Now we have Scourge of Valkus. This guy likes throwing damage around as well, but he has fire breathing. There she is. There's the queen, Laughless. Jugan is going to be really good because he's going to make our creatures bigger, along with, we don't care if this guy does. Next we have a very interesting card with Scourge of the Throne. This guy has Dethrone. I'm not too well versed in these alternate commander mechanics yet, but Dethrone seems pretty good because it'll just make those creatures bigger. But what makes this guy even better is the fact of he's going to give you additional combat phases. And I don't know about you, I like multiple combat steps when I'm attacking with a bunch of very large creatures. Next, we have a colorless dragon with Steel Hellkite. This guy is going to blow up a bunch of stuff. Maybe a creature, maybe, I don't know, an artifact, an enchantment, but doesn't matter. Now we have Kira, the Boundless Sky. The Kamigawa sets have always had very powerful dragon spirits. This guy, being a 5-cost 4/4, already has Death Touch, so that's a very good rate. But when this guy dies, he'll go get 3 lands for you, or just make another creature. Now we have the very large guy with Dragonlord Atarka. This is going to be fun to just keep throwing damage around, along with being a 8/8 flyer with trample. Now we have Nesting Dragon. This guy is just going to keep crapping out a whole bunch of O2 Dragon Eggs, which kind of seems like what we want to do. Now we have the icon himself, Ryusei the Falling Star. This guy is just gonna die and take a bunch of crap with it. Now we have Palladius Moor, the Ruiner. This is a very shiny Palladius Moor. Next we have Atarka, World Render. If you remember this guy from the previous video, this guy is going to make all your dragons have double strike, which is pretty good. Now we have Yosei, the Morning Star. If you haven't noticed, we're running a lot of dragons that do stuff when they die. So, but Yosei is going to lock down our opponents from allowing them to have an untap step. And whatever permanents we don't want them to untap, we're just going to tap them down. Next, we have Earthquake Dragon. You know, the crazy 15 costing dragon. That's a 10/10. But this will be dramatically reduced in cost because of all the other large dragons we have. And we can keep getting this guy back. Okay, now we have a couple non-dragon creatures. But this one's really cool with Ojer Tak, Deepest Foundation. This is a god, but what this guy is going to do for us is similar to the other enchantment, Anointed Procession. Because if we have this guy out and Anointed Procession, every single time Atla Palani makes a egg token, we're going to get 4 of them. And that's pretty good. And if this thing dies, it'll transform into Temple of Civilization. This will tap for a white mana, but all we have to do to flip this back is attack with 3 creatures. We don't even have to deal damage. So we can just attack with 3 eggs, transform this back, make another egg, which will give us 3 more eggs, yada yada yada. Kill those off, get more dragons, kill your opponents. Sounds like fun. And finally, we have Celestia Eulogist. She's going to help us by exiling a creature card from a graveyard. Doesn't matter which graveyard. Could be your graveyard if you really need to, or your opponent's graveyard. And then we're going to populate. We're going to make more token copies of tokens we've already created. Kind of like, oh, I don't know, an egg. Like this thing. This dinosaur egg. Raw dinosaur. It's like Jurassic Park. It's kind of fun. You think that'll be on the tour? I don't know. Alright guys, that was the Atla Palani deck tech. I really hope you enjoyed this deck. I can think of a couple tweaks to this, but for the most part, I enjoyed it very much. And I really hope you guys did too. So, if you guys could, please like this video, leave a comment, let me know what you guys think about these videos, and be sure to share these videos with everybody you can think of, because like I said, if we get to 50 subscribers, I'll do a live box opening, and I'll do a giveaway to one very lucky subscriber. So, until then, take care of yourself and have a good day. I'll see you in the next video.